Okay guys, so for this video I'm going to go over the 9 weeks test study guide, but just so you know, the test is going to be a whole lot like this. The first section is going to be your area and perimeter. The second section is going to be your volume formulas, and then the last section is going to be your Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, honestly this should be a pretty easy test because it's just formulas. Okay. So for number 1, we obviously have a square because the tick marks mean they're all the same, so all sides are 7. When you're finding perimeter, you are just adding up your sides, so 7, and again, show your work. So I'm going to add up 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7. You can put it on this line if you want to. And that would be 28 for my perimeter. For my area, my formula is going to be this one right here, base times height. The base is 7, the height is also 7, so 7 times 7 would be an area of 49. I'm not really going to worry about units on this. We should know those. For number 2, my perimeter, I'm going to add up the outsides, so 5 plus 7 plus 9, and that would be 21 for the perimeter. For the area, this is a triangle. This is my triangle formula right here. So I'm going to do 1/2 times the base, and the base of this triangle is the bottom, which is 9, and then times the height, which is 3, and let's see what we get. You should get 13.5. For number 3, another triangle, so perimeter, I'm going to add up the outsides. Now this is not part of the triangle, okay, that's the height. The triangle would be this section here, so this side is 14, the bottom side is 10, and then this side must be 9. So I'm going to do 14 plus 10 plus 9, and I got 33 for that. For my area, I'm using the 1/2 base times height, and the base of this one is 10, so that goes there, and the height would be 7.5. So 1/2 times 10 times 7.5, I got 37.5 for the area. Now number 4, we got a rectangle. Obviously if the top is 34, so is the bottom. If this side is 10, so is this side. Do not forget to do all 4 sides whenever you add this up. So 34 plus 34 plus 10 plus 10, that would be 88 for the perimeter. For my area, this is a base times height one. So the base would be 34, and the height would be 10. So 34 times 10, and that is 340. Whoops, 40. Okay, and now we got a circle problem here. So my circle formulas are up here. The circumference is pi times diameter, so I'm going to write that down here, pi times diameter. Now, this is not the diameter, I hope you remember. This is called the radius. The diameter would be all the way across. So if this is 8 and this is 8, all the way across would be 8 plus 8. 8 plus 8 is 16, so that is my diameter. So I'm going to do pi times 16. Let's see what we get. Looks like 50.27 for the circumference. The area formula, if you look at the top of the page, that one is pi times radius squared. Now, this is my radius, so that is what goes in my formula. Pi times 8 squared. And that looks like 201.06. Okay, number 6, we've got a parallelogram. The top is going to be 13 because it's the same as the bottom. This side is going to be the same as this side, so that would be 8. So for my perimeter, I'm going to add up the outside, and I'm not including 6. 13 plus 13 plus 8 plus 8, and that is 42. For your area, because this is a parallelogram, we're using base times height. This is the base, 13. The height is straight up and down, so that would be 6. And 13 times 6 would give me an area of 78. Okay, for number 7 and number 8, we've got circles. I'm going to write down the formulas from the other page. Circumference is pi times diameter. Area is pi times radius squared. Okay, again for number 7, this is my radius because it only goes halfway. So my diameter would be all the way across. 30 and then 30 more. 30 plus 30 is 60. So my diameter is 60. That's what goes in this formula. Pi times 60. And that would be 188 point, this one is going to round to 50. For my area, we're going to use this formula. My radius happens to be 30, so I'm going to put 30 in the formula. Pi times 30 squared. And that would be 2,827.43. Okay, on number 8. Now this time I gave you the full segment, which is the diameter. All the way across is your diameter. That's what goes in this formula. So pi times 20. And that would be 62.83. Now, for this formula, we need the radius. This is not the radius. Do not put 20 in this formula. To find the radius, it would just be half of the diameter. 20 divided in half, or divided by 2, is 10. That is my radius. So that is what goes in this formula. Pi times 10 squared. And that would be 314.16. Okay, for 9 through 12, I put this on here because during the snow days, so many of you guys just decided not to do the work. And that is too bad because this is exactly the stuff that we're going over. And so I wanted to include it in the test. Now, what we have here are called composite figures or compound figures. Really, it's just a bunch of shapes put together. Now, number 8 should be pretty obvious. This is just a rectangle with another little rectangle added down here. So I'm going to divide this shape into the top and the bottom. Okay, if you wanted to, you could probably divide it here. Okay, either one of those would work. I'm just going to go with the one that I saw first. So, for the top shape, this is a rectangle. So I'm going to find the area of this rectangle, and I'm going to add it to this shape down here, which looks like a square, but I'm going to just say rectangle because I'm not sure that it's a square. Okay, so when I find the top rectangle and I find the bottom rectangle, I'm going to add those together. Now, the top one, the base, my formula is base times height. The base would be this whole length, which is going to be the same as this up here. So that would be 10. And then the height would be here. That would be 5. 10 times 5 is 50. Okay, I'm going to put this in here. This area is 50. Now I need to find this one. Now, this one's going to be a little trickier. It's still base times height. The base is 5 because that's what this is right here. The height on this one, I need to know how long this segment is. So this one's a little tricky. If all of this is 12 and they tell me this is 5, then that means this and this are the same. So this is 5. So I'm going to take the full segment, which is 12, and I'm going to take off this section. I'm going to subtract this section. 12 minus 5 tells me this is 7. So that means my height is 7. 5 times 7 is 35. So the top is 50, the bottom is 35. We are going to add those together, and that would be 85 for the full area. Okay, number 9. Again, we got a weird shape. The way that I see it is I've got a half circle here, and then I've got a triangle. I've actually got 2 triangles, or I could just look at the big triangle right here, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to find the area of the triangle, and I'm going to add it to this half circle. Okay, so for a triangle, my formula, if I look on the previous page, that is 1/2 base times height. Now, the way that this triangle is sitting right now probably would make more sense to look at it like this, with this being my base here, and this being my height. Well, the good news is I already know the height is 11. The base all the way across would be the same as this length right here, which is 10. So my base is 10, because that's what that is, and my height is 11. So I'm ready to plug it into the formula. The base is 10 and the height is 11. Let me type that in real quick. 1/2 times 10 times 11, that is 55 for the triangle part. Okay, for the half circle, a full circle is pi r squared, and if I only want half of it, I'm going to divide it by 2. So, this is a division symbol right here. So for my circle, I need to know the radius. Now, they told me that this length is 10. Is all the way across the circle the radius or the diameter? That would be the diameter. To get the radius, we need to take the diameter and half it, or divide it by 2. That would give me 5 for my radius. So that's what goes in this formula. Pi times 5 squared. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 2 while I'm at it. So here's what I've got in the calculator. Pi times radius squared divided by 2. And that's going to give me half of my circle, which would be 39.27. And I'm going to add those together, and that would be 94.27. Okay, for the bottom two shapes, number 11 and number 12, what we've got is a big shape that has a smaller shape cut out of it or subtracted from it. Okay, for example, in number 11, the big shape is a rectangle, and then what's been cut out of it is a triangle. So I'm going to take the rectangle, I'm going to find the area of the rectangle, and then I'm going to subtract the area of the triangle. Okay, so for a rectangle, that is base times height. The base of this rectangle is not 8. 8 is only from here to here. The base is all the way across, which is the same as up here, so that is 12. The height of the rectangle would be 5, and 12 times 5 is 60. Now for my triangle, I'm doing 1/2 base times height. So the base of the triangle is from here to here, so that'd be 8. The height of the triangle, that would be the same as this over here, right? So if this is 5, then the height of my triangle is also 5. So let me type that in the calculator. And that would be 20. And then I'm going to subtract this time. 60 minus 20 is the leftover area, or the shaded area right here is 40. Okay, and then one more of those. This time we have a big shape. The big shape is a triangle. And then it has a circle cut out of it, so we're going to subtract a circle. So, again, the triangle is 1/2 base times height. The base of the triangle would be 15. The height of the triangle, would be the same as this over here, so that is 19. So let's see what that gives us. 1/2 times base times height. I got 142.5. And then now time for the circle, which the formula is pi times radius squared. The radius of this circle is 4. So that's what I'm plugging in the formula. And that gives me 50.27. And I'm going to subtract 142.5 minus 50.27. And that gives me a leftover area of 92.23. Okay. Next part. Now this should be the most familiar, or the most recent on your mind, the volume, because that's what we have been doing these last couple of weeks. So we should be able to blow through this pretty fast. First thing is, it says name each solid and then find the volume. So do not forget this. Number 13, hopefully you can tell what that is. That is a cone. So that's what goes in the name part. For the volume, I'm going to use the cone formula, which is right here. I'm going to do my work over here just because I don't think I have room. So that is 1/3 pi times radius squared times height. Now, remember, cones are supposed to be sitting so that the point is in the air, is the highest point. So it should be sitting like this. Now, if I take this cone and I rotate it, then the height would be this section right here, this segment 16. And the radius would be 8. So I'm going to plug in the formula. The radius is 8 and the height is 16. And I got 1072.33. Okay, for number 14, we've got a rectangular prism. That's length times width times, oh, let me write this down. Rectangular prism. Those are your box shapes. And that is length times width times height. So 6 times 3 times 4, which is 72. For number 15, looks like a cube because all the sides are the same. And that is also length times width times height, which are all 10. 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000 for the volume. Then number 16, we've got us a cylinder there. And again, just like the cone on number 13, cylinders are supposed to be standing up. So if I take this cylinder and I rotate it so that it's sitting like this, this would be this direction, which is 20. And then my 10 would be here. So my height is 20, and now 10 is my diameter. So when I divide it by 2, that will give me my radius. And so in my formula, pi radius squared times height, I'm plugging in 5 for the radius and 20 for the height. And that looks like 1570.80. Okay, number 17 is another cylinder, which is pi times radius squared times height. This one's already standing the right way. The radius would be 3, and the height would be 12. Which should give you 339.29. Okay, and then number 18 here is a sphere. That formula is 4/3 pi r cubed. Look at the top of the page so you don't mess that up. The radius would be 6, so that's what I'm plugging into my formula. And then I'm typing this in the calculator. Alpha y equals 4/3. Let me show you. Let me start over here. Alpha y equals, hit enter to get your fraction, 4/3, and then times pi radius to the 3rd power. So that would be 904.78. Alright, last page here, which is the Pythagorean Theorem. And this was probably, everybody did the best on this right here. So hopefully you remember that is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And this one must be the hypotenuse. So, really quickly, let me go over these last few. This shouldn't take long. Your hypotenuse, you must identify first. It is across from the right angle. So this one is my C. And if you'll remember, A and B can be either one. So I'm going to do my formula. A squared, which is 18, plus B squared, which is 12, equals C squared, and that's the one that I've got X. So I'm just going to, since these are both numbers, I'm going to type this into the calculator. 18 squared plus 12 squared 468. And hopefully you remember the last step is to square root. And that gives me 21.63. Okay, for number 20, this one is my hypotenuse. These are going to be A and B. I'm going to go A and B. So in my formula, for A, I'm plugging in 8. For B, I'm plugging in X. And for C, I'm plugging in 17. Now, in this case, we've got a number and a letter. We cannot add those together. So I'm going to do some simplifying first. I'm going to figure out what 8 squared is. This is 64. And 17 squared is 289. Then I'm going to just bring this down because I like it to look neat. Since we can't add these together, instead we subtract this one. To get rid of that, 289 minus 64 is 225. And then again, last step, always square root. And that is 15 for number 20. I'm going to write it over here. Okay, for number 21, first thing, across from your right angle is C. I'm going to go with A and B. So I'm going to fill in my formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A is X, B is 14, and C is 50. I'm going to simplify these two. 14 squared is 196. 50 squared is 2,500. You're going to subtract this one. That gives you 2,304, and then you square root. And that looks like 48 for X. Sorry, 48. All right, last one, number 22. So, or excuse me, last one up here. This one is going to be my hypotenuse. So C, I'm going to go A and B. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Type this part in the calculator. 10 squared plus 11 squared is 221. And then last step, square root. And that looks like 14.87. Okay, last two. I stuck a couple word problems on here, but these were fairly easy if you will remember. And we're still talking about the Pythagorean Theorem on this page. So, to get from Taco Bell to Walmart, you have to drive 8 miles south and then 6 miles west. If you'll remember your directions, north, south, west, east. So, if you start out, let's just say here, and then you go south, that would be down, and then west would be this direction. So here's Taco Bell, and then here's Walmart. You go 8 miles south, and then 6 miles west. And then right here is where your right angle is. The question is, if you could just go straight there, how long would that be? So this would be my C, and these would be A and B. So I'm going to do 6 for A and 8 for B. And that's what we're going to figure out. So let me type this in the calculator. 6 squared plus 8 squared. That is 100. And then square root that and we get 10. So if you could just go straight across, instead of 8 miles, 6 miles, straight across would be 10 miles. Alright, and then the last word problem here. Last problem on the whole test. By the way, on the test, I think I narrowed one of these down. It's going to be just one word problem. The bottom of a 25-foot ladder is placed on level ground 7 feet from the side of the house and then leaned against the house, and I want to find the vertical height. So first of all, imagine a ladder leaning against a house. My ladder is going to lean, so this is going to be my ladder, and here's the house. The house is going to be standing straight up and down, and then this would be the ground. And we'd have a right angle right there. So if the ladder is 25 feet, this is the ladder. So that's 25. And then if it's on the ground, 7 feet from the house, that would be 7. And then we have been asked to find the vertical height, which we know height means up and down, so that's what we're looking for. So in this particular setup, this one would be my C. I'm going to go with A and B here. So in my formula, A we don't know, B is 7, and C is 25. So if I type this in the calculator, that would give me 49. This one, 25 squared, would give me 625. We're going to subtract this one to get rid of that, which looks like 576. And then your last step always, when you're doing this, square root. And I get 24 feet for the height of my house. Okay, I know this was a long video, but you can feel free to, I should have told you this at the beginning, you can skip around whatever you need to do. If you have any questions, please, please, please let me know. Send me an email so we can discuss this before the 9 weeks test.